There are moments in football that defy explanation, moments where a player moves so fast, so effortlessly, that they look less like an athlete and more like a force of nature. For a brief, brilliant window of time, that force of nature was Aldon Smith. He was a man who arrived in the National Football League like a thunderstorm, tearing through offensive lines, shattering decades-old records, and leaving a trail of absolute devastation in his wake. To watch him play was to watch someone completely rewrite what was possible from the edge position. He was destined for greatness, destined for the history books, and destined for the steps of Canton, Ohio. But on June 13th, 2026, the football world stopped spinning for a moment. The news broke out of the Bay Area, and it hit with the force of a freight train. Former San Francisco 49ers star Aldon Smith, one of the most dominant pass rushers of his generation, had passed away. He was only 36 years old. There was no warning, no long public battle with illness, just a sudden, staggering silence. As the news rippled across social media, it became clear that the NFL community wasn't just mourning a former athlete. They were mourning a profound, deeply complicated human being, and a story that felt painfully unfinished. The initial shock immediately gave way to a wave of heartbreak from former teammates, analysts, and fans who knew the depth of the man behind the headlines. The San Francisco 49ers released an emotional statement late that Saturday night, saying they were completely devastated by his sudden passing. They spoke of his undeniable talent, his sheer dominance on the field, and his legendary rookie season. But they also spoke of something else, something that football cards and stat sheets could never capture. They spoke of his infectious smile, a smile that could completely light up any room he walked into. The Las Vegas Raiders soon followed with their own tribute, honoring a man who had left an undeniable mark on their franchise as well, despite the chaos of those years. As we look back at his life, from the highest peaks of Super Bowl runs to the quiet, redemptive chapters of his final years, we are reminded of just how fragile life can be and how hard it is to carry the weight of immense expectation. Welcome to NFL Focus. Before we dive deeper into the incredible rise, the tragic fall, and the quiet redemption of Aldon Smith, we want to take a quick moment to connect with you, our community. We put an incredible amount of hard work, deep research, and dedication into producing these long-form documentaries for you every single week. It takes countless hours to bring these human stories to life, and we do it out of a pure love for the game and the people who play it. If you appreciate what we do, please take a second right now to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, share this video with a fellow football fan, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Every single subscription acts as an immense wave of motivation for our small team to keep going and keep uncovering the real stories of the gridiron. Thank you so much for being part of our journey. Now, let us take you back to where it all began. To truly understand why the grief surrounding Aldon Smith is so heavy, you have to understand what it felt like to watch him play football at full speed. In 2011, the San Francisco 49ers held the 7th overall pick in the NFL draft. They were looking for a cornerstone player, someone who could transform their defense under new head coach Jim Harbaugh. They found that cornerstone in a young linebacker out of the University of Missouri. Coming out of college, the draft analysts were throwing around massive comparisons. They were comparing this kid to DeMarcus Ware, a future first-round Hall of Famer. That is not a casual comparison to give a rookie before he has even put on a professional helmet. But the 49ers trusted their eyes, pulled the trigger at pick 7, and within the first few weeks of training camp, Everyone in the organization knew they had found something truly special. What followed was one of the most explosive introductions to the NFL that the league had ever seen. As a rookie in 2011, Aldon Smith did not just fit into the 49ers defense, he exploded onto the scene. He racked up 14 sacks and 27 quarterback hits in his very first year, finishing a razor-thin second in the Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. Think about that for a moment. Most veteran edge rushers spend their entire careers chasing a 14-sack season. Aldon did it as a 21-year-old kid straight off a college campus, still trying to decode complex NFL offensive schemes and adjust to the blistering speed of the professional game. Those 14 sacks stood as the second most ever recorded by a rookie in NFL history. He was a human cheat code, a perfect blend of length, speed, and raw power that left offensive tackles completely grasping at air. But if you thought his rookie year was a fluke, what he did in his second season in 2012 shifted him from a promising young star into an absolute legend. In his first 32 regular season games, Aldon Smith recorded an astronomical 33.5 sacks. That is essentially a sack per game across 2 full seasons, a historic pace that had never been achieved in the history of the National Football League. He had tallied more sacks in his first 2 years than any player who had ever walked onto an NFL field. In that unforgettable 2012 campaign, he posted 19.5 sacks and 29 quarterback hits, earning first-team All-Pro and Pro Bowl honors. To put that in perspective, those 19.5 sacks still stand today as the single-season franchise record for the San Francisco 49ers. This is an organization that has been around since 1946. It is a franchise defined by legends like Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Patrick Willis, and Ronnie Lott. Yet, no one in the long, storied history of the 49ers has ever touched the single-season sack total that a 23-year-old Aldon Smith put up in 2012. He was the engine of a terrifying defense that propelled San Francisco all the way to Super Bowl 47. He was performing on the grandest stage in sports before he was even old enough to fully understand his own greatness. At that exact moment, the trajectory was undeniable. He was on a straight line to Canton, Ohio. It was not a question of if he would make the Hall of Fame, but when. But as quickly as he ascended to the absolute peak of NFL stardom, a parallel shadow began to form in his life. The very same intensity, the same unyielding edge that made him an unstoppable force on the gridiron, seemed to be burning dangerously out of control off the field. The numbers that defined his next decade were not sacks, but a series of off-field incidents, 10 off-field issues in 9 years. It was a staggering number that completely clashed with his All-Pro highlights, creating a heartbreaking contrast that fans and teammates watched unfold in real time. It started during that historic 2012 season, the very year he was rewriting the 49ers record books. An arrest in Miami on suspicion of driving under the influence was followed by another charge in San Jose in 2013, where he tragically crashed his vehicle into a tree. On Sundays, he was at the absolute peak of his athletic powers, a multi-million-dollar superstar dominating the league. But during the week, he was quietly coming apart at the seams. Yet even in the depths of that chaos, Aldon knew he needed help. In 2013, he voluntarily stepped away from the team and entered a rehabilitation facility, missing 5 games. It showed a young man who was not oblivious to his demons. He knew he was in trouble, but the gravity of his struggles kept pulling him back down. By 2014, the league stepped in, issuing a 9-game suspension for violations of the personal conduct and substance abuse policies. A third of his season vanished. The 49ers organization did everything they could, standing by him through the rehab stints, the court dates, and the suspensions. But every organization eventually hits a wall. Following a 5th arrest in just 3 years during training camp, San Francisco made the agonizing decision to release him. You could hear the sheer exhaustion, but also the deep, genuine love in their parting statement, as they promised to keep supporting him even though he was no longer on the team. He tried to find a fresh start with the Raiders in 2015, but the cycle continued, resulting in a year-long suspension. It was during this painful chapter that Raiders coach Jack Del Rio fought publicly against the NFL policy that barred teams from communicating with suspended players. Del Rio argued that the system was broken, that taking a struggling young man away from his support system, his locker room, and his mentors was the worst thing you could do. But the league rules stood firm, and between 2016 and 2019, Aldon Smith was entirely exiled from the game of football. 4 full years in the absolute prime of what should have been a first-team Hall of Fame career were lost to the wilderness. Then, in May of 2020, the unexpected happened. The NFL conditionally reinstated him, and the Dallas Cowboys took a gamble that many thought was impossible. Aldon Smith had not played a down of professional football in 5 long years. Most analysts believed his body would be broken and his spirit completely spent. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. At nearly 31 years old, after years of legal battles, addiction, and public scrutiny, Aldon Smith stepped onto the field for Dallas and recorded 5 sacks, earning serious consideration for Comeback Player of the Year. It was a beautiful, fleeting reminder that the God-given, otherworldly talent had never truly left him. It proved that no matter how far he fell, he still had the heart of a warrior. After a brief stint with Seattle that ended before the 2021 season, his playing days officially came to a close. But it was the final chapter of his life, the one away from the bright stadium lights, that truly redefined his legacy. In 2024, sports journalists and close friends noticed a profound shift. Aldon had stopped running from his past. Instead, he began using it as a shield to protect the next generation. He stepped into roles as a rookie mentor for teams like the Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars. He returned to the NFL locker rooms not as a faded star chasing a paycheck, but as a survivor, a guide for young men trying to navigate the dangerous high-pressure waters that had nearly drowned him. In June of 2024, he appeared on Keyshawn Johnson's podcast, looking healthy, grounded, and at peace. He told Keyshawn that he was deeply grateful for his journey because of exactly where he was standing today. He wanted his life to be a cautionary tale, a lesson that could save someone else. Hearing those words, you knew this was not a man who was defeated. This was a man who had stared into the abyss, done the hard work, faced his reflections, and made his peace with the world. That is what makes his sudden passing at age 36 so profoundly tragic. This was not a story of a man lost in a permanent free fall. This was the story of a man who had fought his way back up the mountain, who had finally found his purpose, and who was taken from us anyway. As we close this documentary, we want to express our deepest gratitude to all of you for watching. Here at NFL Focus, we pour our hearts and souls into creating these deep, emotionally honest films because we believe the players deserve to be remembered for their full humanity, not just their statistics. Documentaries like this require immense research, dedication, and days of hard work to produce. If our work moved you today, please take a brief moment to subscribe to NFL Focus, leave a like, share this video, and drop a comment below with your favorite memory of Aldon Smith. Every single subscription gives our team the motivation to keep telling these vital stories. Aldon Smith was a complicated man, a beautiful soul, and one of the greatest to ever rush the passer. May his family find peace, and may his soul finally rest. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.